This crown-wearing girl is a top dancer of a major theater in Russia. With her graceful figure, she has countless wealthy and powerful admirers every day. But this girl named Dominika only focuses on dancing because her mother's leg is ill. Dominika is forced to maintain her peak career status to get free physical therapy and housing provided by the theater. However, life is not always smooth sailing. While Dominika was dancing on stage as usual, her nightmare struck. Her leg was accidentally stepped on and broken by her dance partner. When Dominika woke up, she was in a hospital bed, her leg held together by metal pins, indicating she had just undergone surgery. Dominika understood that her dancing career was over. 3 months later, Dominika was discharged from the hospital, and she could walk on her own. When she returned home, she found a man in the house, her Uncle Ivan, who came to visit them. Uncle Ivan was the deputy director of the intelligence agency, and due to his busy work, he rarely visited them. When Dominika made tea for Ivan, he offered to help her with work and left a document behind. After Ivan left, Dominika returned to her room to look at the document. She found a tape recorder and a stack of photos. The tape recorder contained a conversation between her male dance partner and another female dancer. It turned out that another female dancer coveted Dominika's position and had seduced her dance partner to plan the leg breaking to steal her position. In a fit of rage, Dominika rushed to the theater and confronted the couple in the bathroom. Grabbing a stick, she attacked them in fury. But as soon as she realized the gravity of the situation, panic set in. She fled the theater, quickly dialing for an ambulance, fearing she might have caused a fatal injury. Afterward, she returned home, only to find her mother in excruciating pain on the floor. It turned out that the conservatory had stopped paying, which meant the nanny who cared for her mother had stopped coming and stayed in the city. With no other option, Dominika decided to seek help from Uncle Ivan, hoping he might offer a solution. However, Ivan, ever the shrewd operator in the Russian intelligence agency, wasn't one to offer assistance for free, even to his niece. She would have to do something for him in return. Ivan gave Dominika a task. He instructed her to go to a high-end hotel at 9 p.m. on Friday, take a bath, and wear a specially prepared dress. She was to sit in the most conspicuous spot in the bar lobby to attract the attention of the tycoon Dmitri. Once she had his attention, she was to start conversation, then accompany him to his hotel room. The goal was to discreetly swap his phone while he was distracted. However, things didn't go as planned. Dmitri was rough with her, and just as he was about to make an inappropriate move, an assassin appeared, wearing a helmet, and strangled him with a wire. Terrified, Dominika had no choice but to follow the assassin's instructions. The assassin used a silence gun to shoot the door lock and led her down to the garage. After dealing with Dmitri's bodyguard, the assassin took Dominika on a motorcycle to a hidden room in the hotel. Once inside, the assassin removed his helmet, revealing his true identity. At that moment, Ivan entered the room, and his demeanor had completely shifted. He was cold and ruthless. He explained that because Dominika had seen the assassin's face in his actions, she only had two choices: to undergo professional training and become a Russian spy, or to lose her life right then and there. After seeing the assassin's face and witnessing the events unfold, Dominika had only two options: undergo professional training to become a Russian spy, or face death right then and there. Clearly, Dominika had no choice but to choose the first option. Before leaving for her training, she returned home to say goodbye to her mother, who imparted one crucial piece of advice. With Uncle Ivan, you must protect yourself and never close off all your escape routes. The car that picked Dominika up drove down a snow-covered highway. She understood that after this journey, her life would never be the same, and there would be no turning back. Dominika was taken to a harsh, cold place. She arrived at Russia's secret military school number 4 in Siberia. The first person to greet her was a female instructor who handed her the school's rules. The most important rule was that no student should ever reveal their real name or personal details. All the students at the school were referred to as sparrows, young men and women sent from all corners of Russia. One of the primary lessons taught at the school was to identify and exploit the weaknesses of opponents. After seeing the assassin's face and witnessing the events unfold, Dominika had only two options: undergo professional training to become a Russian spy, or face death right then and there. Clearly, Dominika had no choice but to choose the first option. Before leaving for her training, she returned home to say goodbye to her mother, who imparted one crucial piece of advice. With Uncle Ivan, you must protect yourself and never close off all your escape routes. The car that picked Dominika up drove down a snow-covered highway. She understood that after this journey, her life would never be the same, and there would be no turning back. Dominika was taken to a harsh, cold place. She arrived at Russia's secret military school number 4 in Siberia. The first person to greet her was a female instructor who handed her the school's rules. The most important rule was that no student should ever reveal their real name or personal details. All the students at the school were referred to as sparrows, young men and women sent from all corners of Russia. One of the primary lessons taught at the school was to identify and exploit the weaknesses of opponents. After briefing them, the instructor called Dominika and another male student to the front of the class, instructing them to strip naked before everyone. Dominika stared in disbelief, but the instructor calmly explained that from birth, their bodies belonged to the country, and in return, they must abandon their dignity and morals. Alongside this lesson in humiliation, Dominika was also trained in various skills, such as shooting, lockpicking, and tracking. Just as her Uncle Ivan had predicted, Dominika seemed to possess an innate talent for espionage. She excelled in every subject, but her constant success made her the target of envy and jealousy among the other students. One day, while Dominika was showering, a male student who had harbored resentment for a long time suddenly attacked her. He tried to overpower her, but Dominika was far from defenseless. Using a steel squeegee, she knocked him down. This incident led to the headmaster. The headmaster summoned Dominika to his office, but strangely, He didn't scold her for defending herself. The female instructor, however, was less forgiving. In class, she called Dominika up to the front alongside the male student she had defeated. She instructed Dominika to give him what he truly desired. The male student told Dominika to turn around, but she stood her ground and instead stripped in front of him. Her audacity caught him off guard, causing him to lose interest in her. Embarrassed, he quickly dressed and walked away defeated. Dominika understood that what he truly craved was power, not her. The headmaster, recognizing her ability to read people's desires and intentions, saw her as a valuable asset. Impressed by her skills, he allowed her to graduate and sent her back to Russia, confident in her potential for espionage. As soon as Dominika arrived home, Ivan called. She then went to a restaurant to meet him, where he handed her her first mission. Several months prior, Nash, a CIA agent from the U.S., had met his informant in a Russian park to exchange intel. During their meeting, a police patrol car passed by and stopped the informant. In response, Nash pulled out his pistol and fired several shots, intentionally drawing the police's attention. This allowed him to rescue the informant and rush to the safety of the U.S. Embassy. After returning briefly to the U.S., Nash's whereabouts were discovered by the Russian security agency, which found that he was now in Budapest, Europe, attempting to uncover his informant's identity. Ivan decided that Dominika should be the one to approach Nash. Dominika didn't want to be a spy, but Ivan promised her freedom if she completed this mission. With no other choice, she reluctantly agreed and traveled to Budapest. There, she was assigned to stay at the Russian Security Bureau building. Her roommate, Marta, a seasoned spy who had been with the agency for years, warned her about the station chief, a lecherous old man who would likely try to make advances. As expected, Marta's warning proved true when the chief's eyes lit up upon seeing Dominika, clearly searching for an opportunity to get close to her. However, Dominika was unbothered by these advances. Dominika learned from the documents that Nash frequented the swimming pool every day. She decided to follow him covertly, monitoring him from the poolside. That evening, she dyed her hair blonde and returned the next day. She signed up for a membership at the pool and, while filling out the registration form, hesitated for a moment before tearing up the fake name she had used and replacing it with her real one, effectively revealing her true identity. Wearing a revealing swimsuit, Dominika made her way past Nash, carefully drawing his attention. Dominika had deliberately drawn Nash's attention, and as she left the swimming pool, he unexpectedly called her back. Nash had noticed her presence the day before, and he recognized a change in her appearance. He saw through the dyed hair and realized she had been intentionally approaching him. This revelation made Dominika feel a slight tension as she boarded the bus, but as it pulled away, a small smile crossed her face, knowing she had piqued his interest. The next day, Dominika returned to the pool, but Nash was nowhere to be found. When she handed back her key, the staff couldn't find her registration form. It soon became clear that Nash had stolen it, likely using it to investigate her real identity. He reported back to his superiors, revealing that Dominika was not only the granddaughter of the deputy director of the Russian security agency, but also a former dancer. Furthermore, Nash deduced that her use of her real name indicated she had hidden motives. This piqued his interest even more, and he decided to see if he could win her over. The following evening at an international wine reception, Dominika and Nash crossed paths once more. Both now aware of each other's true identities, they spoke openly, without hesitation. Nash made it clear that he wanted to become friends, and they arranged to have dinner together the next day. Later that night, Dominika returned home to find that Marta, her roommate, was absent. Seizing the opportunity, she quietly searched their room and eventually discovered an oil paper bag tucked away in a corner of the wall. Inside, she found several intimate photos of Marta with an American woman, along with a diary that detailed their relationship. The diary revealed that the woman was the chief of staff of the U.S. Senate. As Dominika continued to flip through the pages, she uncovered shocking details of an upcoming intelligence deal involving $250,000 set to take place in London. Just then, she heard the door open as Marta returned, but Dominika had already learned enough. When Marta entered, Dominika came out of her room. Marta gave her a piece of paper, which turned out to be Dominika refusing the station chief's request to go to bed with him. Deliberately attracting his attention, Dominika left the swimming pool. Nash called her back unexpectedly. Nash had noticed her presence since yesterday. He also recognized that she had dyed her hair, which showed that he knew Dominika was deliberately approaching him. Hearing this, Dominika got on the bus with a slightly tense mood, but when the bus left, she smiled. The next day, Dominika went to the swimming pool as usual, but Nash was nowhere to be seen. When she returned the key, the staff couldn't find her information form. It turned out that her registration form had been stolen by Nash, who had investigated Dominika's real information. He then reported it to his superiors, who learned that she used to be a dancer and, more importantly, that she was a granddaughter of the deputy director of the Russian security agency. Moreover, Nash felt that this woman had used her real name, which must have hidden motives. Many reasons made him decide to see if he could win this woman over. The next day, at an international wine reception, Nash met Dominika again, and they knew each other's identities. They started talking without any restraint. Nash made it clear that he wanted to be friends with her, so they agreed to have dinner together the next day. That night, Dominika returned home and found that Marta was not in the room. She secretly searched the room and finally found an oil paper bag in a gap in the corner of the wall. Inside were many intimate photos of Marta and an American woman. A diary mentioned that this woman was the chief of staff of the U.S. Senate. At this moment, Dominika heard the sound of the door opening as Marta returned. She still took the time to flip through a few more pages of the diary, discovering that Marta was about to conduct a $250,000 intelligence deal with this person in London. When Marta entered, Dominika came out of her room. Marta gave her a piece of paper, which turned out to be Dominika refusing the station chief's request to go to bed with him. The petty man had directly snitched to the Russian security agency that Dominika had made no progress. So, the next night, she didn't go to dinner with Nash as promised, but chose to secretly follow Nash home. Knowing his residence, Dominika decided to go directly to his face to get closer. She squeezed out a few fake tears and pressed the doorbell of Nash's house. She started pretending to be pitiful, slowly approaching Nash to seduce him with her beauty. But unexpectedly, Nash didn't take the bait. He even told Dominika to think carefully about what she really wanted. For the first time, she tasted the feeling of failure when she couldn't grasp the psychology of others, and she could only ask Nash to meet again the next day. But the next day, Dominika waited at the swimming pool for a long time, but Nash didn't show up. Having no other choice, she had to go to Nash's house again. She used her superb lockpicking skills to open Nash's room. She searched the house but found nothing useful. Just as she was about to leave, she accidentally saw 2 glasses of wine from the night before still on the table. She took the glass with Nash's fingerprints. Returning, she was surprised to see Ivan had arrived. This was a result of the station chief's snitching, due to the fact that Dominika had made no progress with Nash and had not obtained any useful information. She told Ivan about Marta's upcoming $250,000 deal with the Americans in a panic. At the same time, she lied that this was something she and Marta were doing together, and she wanted Ivan to give her $250,000 first. Ivan understood that this intelligence could be important, so he temporarily let Dominika go. When he was about to leave, Ivan remembered that he had forgotten to take his coat. Dominika took the initiative to get it for him, and she accidentally found Ivan's passport and quickly memorized the number on it. After seeing Ivan off, she turned around and saw Marta holding a gun in front of her. It turned out that their conversation had been overheard. Marta questioned Dominika why she wanted to take the target that she had spent more than a year to achieve. Dominika knew that Marta couldn't get a big sum of $250,000, but she could make the director of the Russian Security Bureau pay the money to help Marta complete this deal. Marta was very curious why Dominika had to risk her life to complete the mission, so Dominika told her that she had seen the assassin under Ivan before. This should not be told to anyone. If it was revealed, Dominika would definitely be silenced, but her action indirectly harmed Marta's life. After this storm, Dominika went to the train station to buy a ticket to Vienna. Then, she went to the door of a local bank. Looking through the glass door, Dominika targeted a young male employee who looked quite inexperienced as her prey. When the bank closed, Dominika seized the opportunity to pretend she was in a rush to register a new account. The male employee responsible for locking the door was the one she had been targeting. With a strategic, pitiful act, she invited him to have coffee and fill out the account registration form with her. The employee, socially inexperienced, agreed, unaware of her intentions. Meanwhile, Marta went to see the station chief at the intelligence station, still harboring resentment. She revealed Dominika's weaknesses to him, further compromising Dominika's position. That night, Dominika returned to her room in Budapest, only to find Marta absent. The bathroom door was ajar, and to her shock, the assassin who had killed Dmitri earlier was there. Marta had been brutally murdered. The assassin spared Dominika's life, knowing she was Ivan's granddaughter, but warned her that if anyone found out he had killed Dmitri, the next person in the bathtub would be her. When local police investigated the scene, they found no useful information and subsequently released Dominika. Standing at the police station to pick her up was Nash, who had received information from his teammates. He had learned about Dominika's true identity as a Sparrow spy secretly trained by Russia. Nash confronted her, comparing the differences in intelligence structures between the U.S. and Russia, condemning the ruthlessness of the Russian Security Bureau toward its own agents. He proposed that she switch sides and join the CIA, assuring her that he would protect her just as he had protected his informant. Dominika, torn by Nash's words, found herself swayed. After some contemplation, she agreed to work for the CIA. Nash took her to the CIA's safe house in Budapest, where 2 CIA executives awaited her. For security reasons, they subjected her to a lie detector test, asking several questions to determine her true intentions in joining the U.S. government. However, Dominika, as a well-trained spy, knew how to control herself, rendering the test ineffective. After the test, Dominika also made her own conditions. She needed the CIA to transfer $30,000 to her account in Vienna every month. The CIA felt that Dominika was a bit greedy, and she dared to arrogantly ask for money without bringing any valuable intelligence. So Dominika told them about the U.S. Senate Chief of Staff wanting to sell missiles. This news directly shocked all the members in the room. They didn't dare to underestimate this Russian female spy. On the day of the deal, Dominika went to the designated hotel in London. In the room, $250,000 prepared by the Russian security agency was placed, and in the secret compartment in the desk, there was also a fake cassette from CIA. Dominika went down to the hotel bar to wait for the Chief of Staff to appear. Unexpectedly, the intelligence station chief Maxim came here. It turned out that he was worried about the deal and deliberately came here to help, but Dominika knew that this was actually an informant sent by Ivan. Dominika stormed into the room, her anger boiling as she saw Maxim. Moments later, the Chief of Staff, Stephanie, arrived, and Dominika quickly positioned herself next to her, introducing herself as the dealer for the day. Upon noticing that it wasn't Marta, Stephanie grew suspicious and made an attempt to leave, but Dominika had done her homework. She knew that Stephanie was in desperate need of money, and she used this to her advantage, persuading her to enter the transaction room. Once inside, Stephanie's wariness faded at the sight of a bag full of money. Dominika had done her research, knowing just how to push her. Stephanie handed over the disc containing the crucial information. Dominika carefully opened the secret compartment beneath the desk and began to switch the discs. However, her operation took longer than anticipated, which aroused Maxim's suspicions. Meanwhile, A CIA employee monitoring the situation from an adjacent room couldn't sit still and rushed over, ringing Dominica's doorbell. Maxim, distracted, went to answer, pretending to be a hotel manager asking for customer reviews. This interruption gave Dominica the time she needed. She successfully completed the switch and walked away from the transaction. Before leaving, she told Stephanie to depart within the hour. But as soon as Dominica left, Stephanie grabbed the bag of money and hurried out of the hotel. While waiting at a traffic light, she lit a cigarette, only to notice CIA agents tailing her on both sides. Panicking, she threw the bag of money into the trash. In her frantic state, she crossed the street but was struck and killed by a truck. The entire incident was witnessed by the Russian security agency personnel stationed at the hotel. He immediately called to report the unexpected turn of events. Maxim received the call and swiftly instructed the driver to head straight for the airport. He then told Dominica that the director of the Russian security agency wanted to congratulate them on a successful operation and that they would be flying back to Moscow immediately. He asked for her tote and passport, which raised alarm bells in Dominica's mind. However, realizing she had no choice, she kept her composure and pretended to remain calm. At the same time, Nash, who had obtained the disc from the hotel, received a call from his superiors, informing him about Stephanie's death. Realizing the danger this posed for Dominica, he rushed to the airport, hoping to save her. He spotted her in the queue at the waiting area, and as she turned to see him, she shook her head, signaling him not to act. Nash felt powerless, knowing that her journey would be fraught with danger. Back at the Russian security headquarters, Dominica was hauled into an interrogation room. The interrogator questioned her, accusing her of leaking information to the Americans. Despite the brutal treatment, Dominica refused to admit anything. When Ivan heard about her stubbornness, he called and ordered that his granddaughter be tortured. Stripped naked and locked in a cold, damp cell, Dominica was relentlessly doused with cold water. Afterward, she was dragged back to the interrogation room, but her resolve remained unbroken. The questions were the same, and still, she refused to confess. This time, she had endured extremely painful beatings. Then they showed Dominica a video of Maxim, who had come back with her, being executed. The interrogator pulled out a gun behind her and asked the question one last time. But Dominica still didn't admit it. The trigger was pulled, but the gun had no bullets. At this moment, Ivan appeared in front of Dominica and told her to tell the truth. Dominica said everything she did was to complete the mission. She did it just to gain the trust of the Americans and finally get the informant's information. Ivan couldn't refute it. As a sparrow, doing anything to complete the mission was normal. Seeing his pitiful and suffering niece, Ivan gradually softened. So, Dominica was temporarily released. When Ivan reported the situation to the director, both the director and the headmaster felt that Dominica was deceiving Ivan. This put pressure on Ivan, and he said that if he found evidence of Dominica's betrayal, he would definitely. Dominica returned to Budapest and went back to Nash's side. She knew that Nash would not reveal the informant's name, so in the end, she would definitely die. Dominica wanted to be protected and asked for more money. She requested that $250,000 be transferred to her account in Vienna. Nash agreed to all her requests, and in the end, Nash was defeated by this Russian girl in front of him. So what had to come finally came. When Dominica woke up in bed, Nash was nowhere to be seen. When she opened the kitchen door, she saw the assassin strangling Nash with a wire. Dominica immediately understood the situation, so she cooperated with the assassin to tie Nash's hands. The assassin temporarily loosened the wire but took out a bag of skinning tools, which were specialized tools for replacing skin for burn patients in hospitals. He wanted to torture Nash slowly until he revealed the informant's name. Dominica looked emotionlessly at the assassin torturing Nash, and even helped the assassin hold him down. Seeing that Nash refused to say anything, Dominica asked the assassin to give her the tool. Then she took advantage of the assassin's inattention and suddenly attacked him. It turned out that she had been pretending to cooperate to wait for an opportunity to save Nash. At this moment, the assassin woke up and attacked the two with a sharp knife. Neither of them waited to die, but counterattacked. Dominica took the opportunity to cut the assassin's tendons, and he fell to the floor, unable to stand up. Seeing this, she rushed over to take his life. When Dominica woke up, she was in a hospital bed. Her health was no longer a concern, but the most headache-inducing problem now was what to do next. The assassin's death proved that she had definitely betrayed them. At this moment, the headmaster suddenly appeared in front of her. Dominica thought he was there to kill her, but he told her that he was the informant. His wife had cancer, but the Russian government didn't allow an American doctor to operate on her, causing his wife to leave him very early. This was the reason why he betrayed them, but he was tired of doing it. He saw that Dominica, now fully aware of her pivotal role, saw a way to shift the tide in her favor. The headmaster, recognizing her potential, suggested that she expose him. In exchange for her life, she could take over his role and continue working for the CIA. With this life-changing opportunity in front of her, Dominica began to act strategically. First, she voluntarily turned herself over to the Budapest police, admitting to the killing of the assassin and requesting to meet with the Russian embassy. When given a chance to speak to the embassy officials, Dominika insisted on contacting the director of the Russian security agency. She made her intentions clear. She would offer vital information in exchange for her life. Over the phone, she disclosed the identity of the internal mole within the Russian agency. To her surprise, the director didn't hesitate to take the bait, and Dominika felt a shift in her fate. Meanwhile, the headmaster, unaware of the trap being set, quietly waited for Dominika's next move at home. As Dominika was escorted to the airport by the police, Nash was already waiting. His disappointment was palpable as he watched her approach. His eyes held a deep sadness. Dominika had completed her mission, but he had never expected it to unfold like this. But the moment of truth came when a Russian helicopter landed, bringing along a mysterious figure. Nash's heart sank as the person was revealed, not the headmaster, but Ivan. At that moment, it dawned on Nash that Dominika had deceived them all. Yet, he couldn't expose the truth just yet. The Americans, believing they were getting the key player in this covert game, confirmed that Ivan was their target for the exchange. Through a series of investigations, it was uncovered that Ivan had a secret account in Vienna, a place where $250,000 had been transferred by the Americans. The diskettes that Dominika had collected also contained encrypted data from Vienna, leading to Ivan's inevitable exposure. As Ivan was escorted away, he leaned in close to Dominika and whispered his last words. The cold reality of betrayal hung in the air as Ivan continued walking toward the Americans. But Russia, unwilling to let a traitor escape, had already planned to execute him. As Ivan reached the Americans, a Russian ambush took him out, shooting him in the head before he could make it any further. Dominika was swiftly taken back to Russia, where she was hailed as the new director of the Russian Security Bureau. Her rise to power was marked by a public display of patriotism, and the headmaster, who had been watching from the shadows, applauded her success. Now, as the new head of the Bureau, Dominika had replaced her uncle Ivan and assumed the mantle of a top-tier double agent, a sparrow spy. Her allegiance remained divided between Russia and the U.S., a dangerous game of survival and deceit. Despite the risks, Dominika had no choice but to continue playing this high-stakes game, knowing the consequences of failure could be far more deadly.